Hello, class. This is Dr. Young. I want to spend just a few minutes going over Chapter 18, the French Revolution. One of the things we need to remember when we think about the situation in Europe is that France really was an important part of European power. In fact, France was number one. As you see on this bullet point, France was considered to be the center of European culture. Sometimes we don't know that because there's so much emphasis placed upon England. But it's really important to understand that even though England was attempting through this period of time, and we saw this with the French and Indian War, as well as their involvement in the American Revolution, France was still very important. And so when we look at the interior and when we look at France's political structure, it's important to understand that what was going on in France was also going on in other places. And so I just want to take just a few minutes and kind of go over some of the different parts of society. Of course, we had the king, the monarchs. We also had the nobles, or the nobility, who basically attempted to try to curtail or to limit the king's power. There's this very old European struggle taking place between the nobility and the monarch. At the same time, because of European exploration, you see a beginning of a middle class that, of course, is basically coming into prominence and having a special kind of needs. And of course, the system is really not intended. The system is not really set up for the middle class. There's a lot of limitations on middle class. And so there's going to be a lot of resentment. And then, of course, you have the peasants, who, of course, are the majority of the population of the country that we're talking about. And they, of course, are resenting, if you will, the government and the increasing demands of the government as government begins to spread its power more and more into the countryside. So this is really a recipe for revolution. And we want to kind of focus in on that as well. And it's important just as we take a few minutes and think about what's happened since 1776. You see on this map the Atlantic revolutions. And it is indeed true that the Atlantic is certainly ablaze with people, groups of people who are basically attempting to change the way things are. The Enlightenment and the importance of the Enlightenment have begun to take hold. And so beginning in 1776 with the American Revolution, we now spread to the French Revolution. And then later on, we will see the Haitian Revolution. And then even later on than that, we'll see the Mexican, Central American, and South American revolutions. So all of this is tied together. And lastly, as we look through the chapter, we're going to be taking a look at the overview itself, the overview of the French Revolution, the moderate stage, the radical stage, the Directory, and finally Napoleon and his importance to this whole business of the French Revolution. So this chapter is extremely important in understanding that not just in France, but in other parts of Europe, people are beginning to move in different directions, and we're going to start seeing unrest more and more as we go through our history.